I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action.
You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is.
Starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger.
If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your worth.
Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob, and I'm back with episode number 394 of Shut Up and Grind. We're all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you to clear what's ever blocking the path to the success that you want in this lifetime. So I bring guests on from all over the world. I've had guests from 6 of the 7 continents, and at some point, we're going to get someone from Antarctica. We're going to get all 7 continents. So now our guests share stories of overcoming. Right? This isn't just about, I was told I'd never run or jump again, and I ran and jumped again. Right? It's about the mindset shift that it took to get there. For me, having the courage to not just hang on that doctor's word and believing in myself. Right? So a lot of people that gravitate to this show, they're stuck. Maybe it's something unresolved from their past. Maybe they're currently unfulfilled in their career choice, or they're just something that they haven't healed from. And again, I bring guests on who have been in that place. Like, they've been in your shoes. They've felt what you felt. They've gone through that, and they're going to share how they did that. So today's show is titled Broken Open, Not Broken Down. Because people think that when you're down, guess what? The only other place you can go is up. Right? So we want to look on the bright side, and we want to help you look inside and just find whatever it is that you need to find to help get you out of that rut. And so helping me have the conversation today is JC Chamberlain. And today we're going to dive into building resilience when life hits hard, what elite sport teaches about business and identity, reinventing yourself after setbacks, and how to keep moving forward when normal is no longer available. JC, welcome to the stage. How you doing?
Hey, Robert. Great to see you. I'm really glad to be here.
Awesome. Where are you joining me from?
I am in Northern Virginia, about 12 miles from the U.S. Capitol. It's only about an hour and a half by car on a good day.
Okay, Northern Virginia. Are you originally from there?
I was born in New England, gravitated south gradually through New York City and Maryland. And then I spent the 25 years in Ohio. And then I came back to the East Coast, where I've lived the rest of my time. So I'm about to tip into age 70.
Okay. Where in Rhode Island? We're in New England.
I was born outside of Boston on the Cape Ann, a little town called Marblehead.
Oh yeah, I know Marblehead. Yeah, I live in Rhode Island.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, I was in Jamestown just last August.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I love James. I love Rhode Island. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice being such a small state because you can get wherever you need to get to quickly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, like I went to Colorado once. I was just outside of Denver, and I wanted to go see these hot springs that were in Aspen. And I was like, I can't be that far away, right? But it's like 4.5 hours away. I was like, whoa, I don't want to spend, half the day driving. So you get spoiled living here because everything you can get maybe an hour is like the most you'll drive getting somewhere here.
Living in the Midwest, never worried about the weather because I knew it was going to change pretty quickly. There was nothing to get in the way of the weather, and so it would just move through.
Yeah. I was actually talking about that last week when I was in New Mexico. It's like they can forecast the weather almost down to the minute. It's crazy. All right, so let's dive in. So first, I want you to describe yourself at your core.
Okay, I was a sickly child, and I had rheumatic fever when I was very young, and my heart valve didn't heal right, and the doctors told me that I would never be able to do sports. And I was able to somehow reframe that from a very bad life prospect, of not being ever be able to do sports, that I wouldn't have a strong enough heart. I first knelt on the floor in front of the record player and I sang with the Vienna Boys Choir, la la la. And then my voice broke and I realized I was never going to Vienna. And then I asked my parents to buy me a violin because I just loved music. And they rented me one. They were sensible. And I played it 3 hours a day. I probably drove some people crazy initially because it didn't sound very good. But eventually I worked my way to the first chair in the first violin section in my middle school orchestra. So I was the master, and I had perfect pitch and I could find the notes. I could hear the music. And that was something that just resonated with me. Whenever I encountered an obstacle, I would call up music. And it has had a transformative impact on my life. And I did turn to sports, eventually got involved in bike riding. And while that seemed to many to be a simple escape from a bad situation at home, for me, it was an extraordinary, empowering, transformative change in my life that allowed me to suddenly be good at something. And I was able to reframe all those bad situations from earlier on in my life into a whole series of great outcomes. So I would say that I have a simple skill that is my ability to reframe a bad situation into a great opportunity.
So when you heard that initially, that you'd never be able to do sports, like how did that affect you?
I was sad at first because all a 6-year-old boy wants is a baseball and a glove, and I probably shared that with my grandmother and grandfather. I was kind of distant from them, but they turned out to be very tuned into me. And on my 10th birthday, they sent me a $20 bill, which in 1967, that was a lot of money for a 6-year-old. And so I ran to the sporting goods store. I managed to con my parents into getting me to the sporting goods store, and I bought a catcher's mitt and 3 baseballs. And I paced off the distance from my front porch to a fictional second base. And I decided that I was going to learn to throw out a runner at second base. It turned out to be kind of the middle of my street. And I would pop out into the middle of the street and I would throw 3 baseballs at a square of chalk that I had drawn on the bottom step of my front porch. Fortunately, I had a wooden door and concrete steps. And eventually, I threw the threads off those balls and the skin came off. I threw them so much, and I got really good at hitting that square. And I realized that I could probably throw somebody out at second base. And I convinced my mother to take me to the tryouts for Little League. And once I made the team, she said, "You're going to need to get there because I work and your dad is gone." And she bought me a 1-speed bike. And I started riding my bicycle to baseball practice. Eventually, I made the travel team. And the hidden message in all of that was that I was suddenly into bike riding.
Yes, let me pause you there. All right, so I want to back up. Let me just write down bike riding so you can pick up where you left off. So through this time, what happened with your heart?
Right. So all the way until probably into my late teenage years, I still had a heart murmur that was resulting from the rheumatic fever that I had when I was 4. So it hadn't healed right. They put me on a bicillin, which is a kind of penicillin, very strong, that helped to prevent infection. And as I grew older, I gradually became active. And what they had predicted that I could never do sports because of this. They didn't anticipate that I would actually get to do sports and that it would begin to heal me. And so what happened was I built a very strong heart, and eventually I didn't need the medicine anymore.
That's awesome. I love that. And just imagine if you didn't buy into that. Like, I know at 6, you know, you're gonna listen to the doctor, but it's like I've had 8 surgeries now. I'm actually on week 8 in recovery from a full knee replacement.
Wow.
You know, and I saw the surgeon on Monday, and he says, "Are you still out of work?" I said, "Still?" I said, I didn't miss a day. I said, I got discharged on Thursday. I went to work on Friday. Well, I came here at the gym. A couple of days prior to surgery, I brought a wheelchair and left it up here so I could be in the gym, because I said I can be at home in pain, not getting paid, or I can be here in pain and get paid. So, and I told myself I'm going to get out of physical therapy in record time. So like I went to the therapist and I asked him, like, what's the fastest someone's gotten out of here with a full knee replacement? They said 8 weeks. I got out in 6. You know, because again, I'm a firm believer that the mind controls the body. So if you tell yourself, I'm never going to be able to do this, your body's going to respond accordingly. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. I think something that my mother told us when we were very young, and it took a long time for us to make sense of it, is she would say, "Don't worry, honey, nothing is going to be okay." And if you think about the words on the surface, you think, well, that's a negative worldview. The reality is the way that she presented it and what she followed up with made us understand that life is not going to be fair to you. And that if you come at life with plan B and plan C and enthusiasm and creativity, you're always going to overcome that bad situation. Setbacks are going to look like nothing to you instead of everything. And so, you know, one thing we learned in rowing, as in my late teenage and early 20s, I was involved in rowing at the high school and college level. And everybody takes a bad stroke. And one bad stroke can tip a boat over if you don't let it go. But the reality is you have to learn to very quickly compartmentalize that bad stroke and let it go. And so I think that allowed me to do kind of what you've done in terms of compartmentalizing the setback. You look at your recovery as part of the future of your life. It isn't a revisiting of the old life. It's a continuation. It's not a comeback. And I think that phrasing and that view of your life is what allows you to power through these things.
Yeah, because when people get stuck on the what, like I say this a lot on the show, is people get stuck on the what and not just embracing whatever it is you're going through, and we're gonna make the best of this. Like I said, we have 2 sides to this gym, and over on the other side we have a refrigerator, and so I prepped up food, you know, so like I didn't have to drive, because I probably shouldn't have been driving, but you know, I'm my own man. It's like I decide if I'm driving or not, right? So to minimize my driving, I said I had food. I brought the wheelchair up. My mom borrowed an icing machine, like a cooler, and it wraps around the knee to keep the knee cool, right? And we just put everything in place to get through this as smoothly as possible. But people get caught up in the woe is me. I have to do this. I have to do that, and it just magnifies it. Like, it magnifies the frustration, and it takes your eye off the prize. My prize is I'm gonna have a brand new knee. It's like I'm gonna go through these steps to be pain free in my knee. Like that's the goal. So when people have a goal and then they take their eyes off of it, that's where the problems arise. What are your thoughts?
Yes. About 13 years ago, I was on a bike ride, of course, out in 2-lane road in Ohio. And we were heading east, me and one other guy. And we were about 12 miles into our bike ride, and we were rolling at a good pace, about 25 miles an hour. And a guy coming from our left ran a stop sign on the gas and took me out. And I was on the car about a half a second. I just happened to be the first one through the intersection that day. And the guy behind me was completely untouched. That's how fast the driver was going. And the guy behind me was only about 4 or 5 feet behind. But I was on the car about a half a second. I took out the windshield with my helmet, probably saved my life. I broke off the rear view mirror on the driver's side with my rib cage from back to front. And then I put my left shoulder through the right rear passenger window. And that threw me about 100 feet, where I landed on my face in the gravel on the other side of the intersection. I've never flown 100 feet before, I can tell you that. And you know, I don't have any recollection of that. I've had to piece it all back together. But I have to say that that setback was really a pivot point, an inflection point in my life, where I woke up in the ER, and you know, the surgeons told me that if I worked hard, I could probably learn to walk, but that I would never ride a bike again. And I was completely incapacitated on my left side. I couldn't even hold a person's hand with my left hand, and that was unnerving to me. But I said to the surgeon, I said, "You don't know who you're saying that to." And I don't know how I will find a way to ride again, but I'm going to find a way. And I knew right then that I would somehow see my way through it, but it was a couple of years of dark times. It was a very difficult, I had to completely resurrect my physical body. And my brother, who's an MD, came to my bedside and he said, "I don't worry about your bones." He said, "I've seen you heal before. You've fallen hundreds of times." He said, "I worry about your persona of a champion and how that will never be the same." And that was a really, I cried big time because my psyche thought he might be right. You know, how do you heal a broken ego? And that was the real challenge in that setback, was to figure out a way to rebuild my psyche, my self-confidence.
Yeah, that's huge. And let me tell you, you're very fortunate to be here, because that similar situation just happened at the tail end of the summer. Like, I'm a track and field coach, and so at track meets, you know, they have officials. So I was working with this guy on a Saturday, like long time official. Like, I'm very familiar with him. And then I hear up here near the gym, this was maybe 5 or 6 days later, that there was a bike accident. Almost same exact thing. Guy ran a stop sign, hit him, and he didn't survive. But it was that guy, that track official. I was like, I just saw him last week, you know. But you'll be surprised. It's like, I, not to your level, but I ride bikes too, and you'll be surprised. Like, people come out and they don't think to look both ways. They just look in the direction that they need to go, or they're looking for cars the other way, turn around, and it's like, I'm like, hello. You know, it's like, I'm here, you know. And people have to be aware of that. I mean, so describe your comeback. It's like, how did you battle each day?
You know, looking back on it now, I don't use the word comeback because I found that it was really effective to look at everything that came before and everything that's happened since. And I've tried to integrate those two into what I call a continuation. And that allows me to look at the pivot point of the accident as a blessing and a gift. And I'm actually thankful that I was the first one through the intersection that day. It also turns out that the guy who was behind me that day has died of a heart attack. And
oh, wow.
So now I'm alone in having had that experience. And somehow, perhaps the man upstairs knew all of this beforehand and allowed me to be the first one through the intersection, that the accident was going to change the course of my life in some way. And I believe that it has. So, we have these kind of trauma for a reason. In my case, I would say that it allowed me to reflect on everything that I had done to bring me to a US elite level in cycling. And that after that, I had continued to stay fit over a long arc of years, 30 years after I left the world of elite cycling, and finally turned my attention to returning to the level of elite cycling. Again, age group adjusted, but to be realistic about it, I decided to train like I was going to race again, even if I never raced again. But I needed to apply myself in that way. And it allowed me to compartmentalize the experience of being hit by a car and to move forward, and continued to move forward. And a lot of wonderful things have come about just by staying in motion and understanding that this was a gift and not a setback.
Love it. One thing that I say a lot is, like, people will ask me, like, how do you get ready for a track meet? Like, how do you get ready for an obstacle race? And my response is always, I don't get ready. I stay ready. So to your point, I always train as if I have something on the calendar. Always.
Yeah, I love that.
I'll be in here because every now and then I'll jump into class with them if it's a smaller class. And they're like, you don't have to go 100 miles an hour all the time. I'm like, yes, I do. Like, you don't know how I'm wired. It's like, even if it's just me, I give myself challenges, right? I got 30 seconds, I'm going to get 10 calories on the assault bike, go. And that's just how I train. That's how I do it. When I go hiking, I want the steepest, most vertical mountain I can find. It's like, why not? Like, why not? You grow from doing the hard stuff. If you don't do hard stuff, then you're just going to remain the same. Like, I don't want to take the path that everybody else takes. I'm like, where does that go? It's like, I'm just a naturally curious person. And that's what keeps me fired up. That's what keeps me on my toes. But
yeah, no, honestly, I think the view is better on that path.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But people are afraid to make that leap. And when I'm working with people and they're like, I'm afraid of change. I'm like, well, if you don't change, you're going to stay the same. And aren't we talking because you want change? Right? So you have to be willing to make the leap.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. That's the hard stuff that makes it so worthwhile. And I think, when I talk with young entrepreneurs, for example, I've spent the last 25 years in early stage enterprise and in advising entrepreneurs. And they think that the path to success is just having the right idea or the right timing or some other thing that's magic. And the actual path to success is failure. And we have to be broken, broken open in a way, but not broken down. And I think that's the realization, is that if we want to achieve anything, if we want to be a better athlete, you have to tear down your muscles and then you have to rest. And that's when you gain strength, is during the rest cycle. So all of this fits together, as a pattern. Once you realize that the only way to succeed at something is to be just slightly broken.
Yeah, see, people have to understand, like me, I'm a fitness coach, I'm an athlete. But I tell people, you're only good at what you work on. Like, people come in here, usually women, and they'll say, I've never been able to do a pull-up my entire life. Like, how often did you actually train for it? And they're like, never. Well, that's why you've never done one. Right? So when it comes to public speaking, because that's typically who I work with, is I work with people who want to get better at speaking. And they say, I'm terrified of public speaking. I'm like, no, you're not practiced. You need the reps. It's like the more reps you do, like anything else, you're going to get better at it. So if I get out, like I can play baseball, football, basketball, track and field, volleyball. If you give me a lacrosse stick, I'm going to be the worst guy out there, right? Because that's not my lane. That's not what I do. But if you give me 3 months in a rule book, it'll be a whole different ball game. And that's the mindset that I try to get people to adopt. And I believe you too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, grass is greener where you water it, right? It's not greener on the other side of the fence. And so exactly. It's a law of nature that the grass is going to be greener where you feed it.
Yeah. And when it comes to personal development, like that's not something that it's an ongoing process. You know, it's like it just uncovered this past week that I'm not over something that happened that I thought I was long over. You know, so it's like it's an ongoing process. So people think that just because I do something, that means I don't have to work on me anymore. Like, and that's not the case. And so what I want people to get, especially out of this show, I mean, you've had, at 6 years old, you were told you'll never be able to do sports. And then again, after this accident, you'll never be able to ride again. And what did you tell me that you're going to do this week?
Yeah, this weekend, I'm going to ride 200 miles in 12 hours on Saturday.
12 hours, 200 miles. And what for?
Just because I'm actually training to ride 300 miles on May 1st and 2nd. Okay. So we'll eventually, we'll start at 8 p.m. and we'll ride through the night. I will be, by the time the sun comes up, I'll probably be halfway to my goal. So we're going to ride through the night. And a lot of people fear that part of a marathon. But I love it because it comes with a certain kind of peace. So I have kind of shifted gears from my racing career where I was in 1,150 races over a 10-year amateur and pro career. And I learned that there's a difference between what it takes to get you to the finish and what it takes to do the finish. And this applies to business also. You know, anybody can muddle along in a relationship with a client, trying to build something with the client. But then when it comes time to ask for the order, it's a different behavior. And in cycling and bike racing, the skill set that it takes to get you to the finish with the leaders is different from what you should do to win the race. And so I focus on both of those things, both in business and in sports. And now I'm shifting my gears literally into ultra endurance. Because until you ride over 100 miles, which most 50 to 60-year-olds never do, most of them ride 35, 40 miles and they call that a big ride. And what I learned is that after 100 miles, I get better. And I get another gear. And so because I've ridden hundreds of centuries over my time on the bike, that's a part of the ride that I love. So now I decided that at this point in my life, I'm going to focus on that. That takes a lot of discipline, feeding right and riding right. So you have to be much more careful in your ride plan to achieve 150, 200, 250, 300. I
want you to dive in a little deeper on how the mindsets correlate between doing what you do athletically in business.
Sure. I think, you know, we talk about sustainability, you know, a lot in companies. And one of the things that people think is I've got a great product or service that I'm going to make my whole company on that. That's fine. It's a very short-term outcome that can be achieved from that. So the minute you have a successful product, you need to begin innovating for your next successful product. And so the graph looks like this. You know, as you introduce additional products, you run all of them through the same rigorous process of finding what are those elements that resonate with customers to drive revenue and participation. The same thing goes for athleticism, especially on a long ride like this. At the beginning of the ride, you have to show a lot of discipline. I can throw 1,000 watts for a very short period of time, seconds, but I could do that. That means I have a lot of power, but I have to drip out the power over a long ride like that. So I have to exercise a lot of discipline. Don't allow the 40-year-olds to come along and tease me into doing something that's not in my plan. And then ultimately, I sustain that by being careful about what I fuel, what I put into the engine, and disciplined about keeping my watts at a certain level, and pay attention. But one of the things I've learned is that my respiration and heart rate actually drop after 100 miles. I don't go the wrong direction when I go longer. I get a benefit of having gone long, and so I listen for that.
Okay, so you said discipline, right? What is your definition of discipline, or what does that mean to you?
Restraint. I think mostly it's restraint. When we take two funnels, one is goals, but one is energy, and we have a goal. If we don't focus those down into the middle, where we funnel both of our excitement and energy into a central goal, then we never achieve it. And so we need to have a goal, and then we need to have a disciplined approach to getting to that goal. And that means to say no to a lot of things that are tempting. You might have excess capacity early in a bike ride like that, for example. Or if you're in a marathon, you have a pacing strategy, and you need to stay with that, and you need to feed according to that. And so in doing a long ride like this requires that kind of discipline, where you have a plan, you stick to the plan, you check in with your plan, you listen to your body, you modify if things aren't going in particular right. So I think it's requires really paying attention and being disciplined about not exceeding a certain level of power application, certain cadence and speed. All of those factor into being able to go long.
So you used another good word in there, sacrifice, right? But before we get into that, let me write that down.
Okay.
I want to tell a quick story about what happens when you don't do those things. But for me at that time, it was just lack of knowledge. So I got into obstacle race. Well, I had the knee injury in 2009. I got into obstacle racing in 2011. And so I did a lot of shorter ones, 5Ks, because that's really all that was around then, 5Ks. So Tough Mudder comes around, and Tough Mudder was 12 miles, and it was on a mountain. I didn't know about carb loading. I didn't know about proper hydration. Like, I was just scratching the surface with fitness at that time. It's like I'm well versed in all that stuff now. But we didn't have hydration packs. It was 96 degrees in New Hampshire. Like, I'll never forget this race. It was like a turning point for everything. But we got severely dehydrated because it was so hot. The race actually ran out of water. It's like we didn't carb load. And the morning of, all we had for food was the continental breakfast at the hotel. So talk about lack of preparation. We got through it, but we suffered. And we suffered badly. I actually had a meltdown towards the end. But now I have one kidney because I donated to my sister in 2011 also. Wow. So dehydration with one kidney is very bad. And so we're at the bottom of the mountain, and we're all thinking that we're done. And then I see people turning left. I'm like, why are they going left? Like, the finish line's right there. And I get around the corner, and it's a full base to summit climb. And I was like, and I just lost it. It's like I was so disoriented from being dehydrated, where one of the teammates had to come I think there were 12 of us. And he's like, Rob, he's like, you're our leader. He's like, we need you. He's like, if you break down, everyone else is going to break down. He's like, we need you to be strong. So I found it in me to get all the way up and back down again. But that taught me a fierce lesson about being prepared for these endurance events.
Absolutely. Let's hydrate. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Oh my God. But it completely changed like how I train my clients. I got books on sports nutrition, endurance events, and all that. So now I have no problems training myself or other people for it. But that's the kind of things that happen when you don't follow the game plan. Because just a short definition for me of discipline is doing what needs to be done when you don't feel like it.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
And
all right.
listen very, very specifically to what's going on in your body. I discovered that as I began to increase my miles, my adductors would begin to cramp. They would begin to quiver late in the ride. And so I began discussing this with my coach, and I'm sure you have an opinion about this. But we began doing Copenhagen planks and some other exercises to specifically build that strength and also rest those muscles. As I was discovering a combination of over fatigue or overwork and not having the specific strength in that part of my quads. And I need those pistons in order to turn the pedals. So part of it was mindset of not allowing myself to get into a mindset that at a certain point I was going to cramp and ride through that, and also to prepare the body ahead of time by adding some protein sooner in the ride, things like this that properly fuel the engine so that you don't have that shortage.
Yes. Yeah. So we did a Spartan Beast. I want to say it was, again, myself and a house full of my clients. We usually cook Friday night. Like I cook for, like, everybody brings like pasta and sweet potatoes and things of that nature. And I usually cook for all of us. And then I get up before everyone and I cook us breakfast as well, to make sure everyone is well fueled. And we can get through the entire race on just like gummies in, a waffle snack, like those little waffle. You know what I'm talking about.
Group waffle.
And
yep.
Yes. Yeah, and everybody gets through without issue. Like I said, I learned from that Tough Mudder race. It was like, that's not happening ever again. But the beauty of doing these things, honestly, is just because you can. It's like when I describe the Spartan Beast to the people here, they're like, that sounds terrible. And I'm like, I'll be honest with you. It's like going up and down the mountain. Yeah, that's exhausting. I mean, some of these races is like 8,000 feet of elevation. And yeah, it's hell on your legs. Plus you're doing all the obstacles too. You're carrying heavy buckets and heavy sandbags. But when you're done though, that's like, you cross that finish line, it's like, I did that. It's like, it's not like you're up there chest bumping and high-fiving. Like, you cross that finish line, you are beat down. But the sense of accomplishment is absolutely amazing. So I want to assume riding 200 miles, you kind of get that same thrill.
Well, I think it's something nobody can take from you, kind of the achieving the Ironman or something like that in terms of a milestone event. And I think that's something that's very personal. You're right. I mean, you don't have to be high-fiving anybody about that, because inside you there's this intrinsic satisfaction of having done it. And to do it, someone asked me, when you cross 300 miles, are you going to want to do 10% more? I've made a life of always doing 10% more, because I think it'll give me a competitive advantage at some point. And I said, no, I think at 300 miles, I'm gonna get off the bike. and I'd be very satisfied with what I did, and I'll look forward to maybe extending that in another event. But if that's my goal for the day, then that's what I'm going to do. And I think that's important to, even when you have big goals, is to achieve those goals, and let it sink in. That really becomes part of you, and makes you unshakable in a certain way.
So I was going to retire from obstacle racing after my 50th race, and we're over 200 now.
Wow.
So then I said, I'll go to 75. All right, I'll go to 100. Like, and I had this whole shirt made with my 100th race. Like, I'm not gonna do anymore. And then I'm back on Google. I'm back on the Spartan website. I'm finding the local race. Like, a lot of it too. I mean, yes, I definitely do them for me, but a lot of it too is for a lot of the people that train here, people that have never done one. I tell them, when you come here, this is like taking college classes. I said, this race is the exam. Like, this race is going to show you how strong you really are. And so there's a race at Fenway Park in Boston. It's also a Spartan race. There, it's a little more boot campish because they can't dig at Fenway Park, so like they can't bring their big rigs and all that. But there's still some things that you just can't do in everyday life. So we have a TV in here, and during class, I would have YouTube videos of the Fenway race going on, and a lot of the people like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do. I like, how do you know? Like, you don't know till you get there and try. I ended up bringing 33 people there. Now, did they all do every obstacle? No, but on some of them, like with the monkey bars, like the monkey bars are long. I said, if you don't get all the way across, that's fine. I said, but get up and go as far as you can. Like, if you make it 4 rungs before you fall, that's 4 rungs further than you've ever done before. Going back to what we were saying earlier about the little steps, like do the little things to get there. So then if we go back next year, maybe you'll make it 7 rungs. Maybe you'll make it all the way across. I said, but the first step is to attempt the thing, and going back to what we were saying about business, for the people that feel stuck and you want to make a pivot, just get started. Right, just get started. Whatever it is that most people want to do, it's already in their mind. Like, when I left the restaurant industry, I knew I wanted to get into fitness. Like, it was already there. I knew out of high school I wanted to get into fitness, and then I ended up 20 years in the restaurant industry. But that's what happens with people. But I want to kick it back to you as our time is winding down here. Like, tell me about your business. Who do you work with? What do you do? If you have anything going on?
Sure. Couple things. I love early stage enterprise, and I've spent the last 25, 26 years just working exclusively in early stage. It turns out that I'm particularly good at helping someone get the idea out of their head and into a product or a service definition or an actual product prototype, and then identifying the correct pricing for that market and getting customers and revenue. So that's what I do professionally, is help people get from the idea to customers and revenue, which is the holy grail of an early stage enterprise. And it turns out that if you listen well and you don't talk too much, you hear these amazing, great ideas that people have. I love to ask people, what's the best idea that you ever had that you didn't do? And then, because God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, I try to listen twice as much as I talk. And people will say the most amazing things about these ideas that they had. And I listen and listen and listen until I find one that I think scales to a mass market, that does good and has a highly motivated CEO attached to it. And that CEO is never me. I'm always a part of a team. I'm not the leader of the team. And that's been a particularly good place for me to work in this space of early stage enterprise. And then I help them unleash, this incredible energy that comes with bringing their idea just to borrow a word off your page. And that helps to ignite them and inspire them. And they find their own energy and they get momentum. And once people have momentum, then sometimes I don't need to be involved anymore. but oftentimes I'll stay involved. The latest enterprise that I'm working on now is to address the journey from conception to age 2 of a baby.
Oh.
And it's the part of our life that mostly society ignores, and they just assume that biological things will take care of themselves. And the reality is that if we support the moms from the first awareness that they've conceived a baby all the way until the age 2 of the baby, we create an exceptional opportunity in life instead of an average or sub-average lifetime. So our focus is on supporting the mom, reducing stress, improving exercise, better nutrition, all the things that go to building a bigger baby, a happier baby through their lifetime, and less prone to disease. So it turns out that scales to a mass
awesome.
market. We're building an app to do that, to support the moms in the early stage.
So in that regard, this is completely, well, it's not unrelated because you just mentioned children, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Right, you weren't born to simply exist and then die. Each one of us were born with a unique skill set, with a unique perspective on life, and without interference from others, we would naturally become who we were meant to be.
Amen.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I believe that. That's such an awesome mission statement for life. Right.
Yeah, that's actually a quote from my book.
There's no cookie cutter, right? And so if I truly support you to become the person that you were meant to be, then that's a unique outcome. And I believe it totally. Yep. I think I could count on one hand the people who became my direct mentors over the whole arc of my lifetime. And if you're lucky enough to have 4 or 5 people like that in your lifetime, you see how powerful that is, that who you can become if you are properly supported.
Yeah, like I see it here in the gym all the time, because most people don't join a group fitness program because they're feeling great about themselves, right? They're usually coming off of something, a divorce, a work change, looking to just lose weight, or if they're unhealthy and they're just trying to get healthier. Like, people usually don't come in here in a good headspace, and just watching the transformation of just watching the light switch flip on. It's like that's the best part of the job. And working with people, I'm sure you get that same kind of thrill, like when you see them, like when you can walk away, like if they no longer need your support, that's a win for you, right?
Yes, that's a win. Absolutely. Hopefully I walk away with some equity, but yes, absolutely.
Then there's that. All right, yeah. So let people know where they can get in touch with you, and then I'll ask you for a final word.
Sure. Easiest place is my book website. It's called antidotethebook.com, ANTIDOTETHEBOOK.com. And that's where you can hit the contact me button and you can reach out to me. I have built a life satisfaction survey that is just 21 questions and gives you a nice output. And I'll give that free to anybody who gets in touch through this show. And I'd be happy for you to have that. And the book is there, and it's also an audiobook if you like to listen instead of read.
Awesome. All right, and now give me some final words.
I think what I would say is that in this era where we feel disconnected from things, that we've got our head in a screen, or maybe just we tuned out. Something that my mother liked to share with us when we were younger. She said, remember, we're all in this alone. And the reality is you are responsible for you, but we are all connected. And everything that you think or do connects or impacts everyone else. And so through that connection is everything that happens. So I would leave you with that, is that while you are responsible for building your own muscles and pursuing dreams and living your life, what you do matters, and it matters to other people because we are all connected. We are all fundamentally energy, and we're connected and we influence upon each other.
Absolutely. Nothing to add there. That was perfectly said. So thank you very much for taking the time to share your knowledge, your expertise, and your passion. I let every guest know, even though I haven't done one yet in about a year, is I do panels where it's usually me and 6 of my former guests. We pick one topic. As you see, this one's embracing vulnerability. And we each take turns round tabling that one subject. And one thing that the panelists always say, they're like, oh, well, what if someone says what I was going to say? I'm like, it's highly unlikely. Like, I've done 17 of these things so far. Because everybody has a unique perspective. You know, for example, you can say the word vacation. You ask 50 different people to describe their ideal vacation, you're going to get 50 different answers. You know, so I like doing that just because it shows people that there's not only one way. You know, it's like people ask me all the time about the name of the show and the name of my book. And they're like, you know, why are you telling people to shut up? I'm like, some people need to hear that. I see it here in the gym. There's people that swearing at them motivates them. There's other people they need the arm around and to be told that they're doing a good job, right? There's other people they need the workout explained to them. You know, it's like, why are we doing this? What does this work? You know, like there's 4 major personality types. And so when we roundtable that one topic, it just makes for a great discussion. So if you're interested in that, let me know and I'll add you into the queue. All right,
yep,
perfect.
I'm in.
Perfect.
That'd be great. I would enjoy it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to cue the outro, but don't sign out yet, please.
Okay.
All right. And again, thank you. And thank you for everyone tuning in. Make sure you like, download from Spotify if you haven't yet. And I will be back next time. Take care.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.